Hello, Steve Out 89. Well, Willow apparently was cancelled in its first season. It's not a huge shock because it didn't have a lot of viewership. It didn't seem to have a lot of support. There were reports that had no merchandise, but I saw reports of merchandise being planned and coming out. I don't know if that was cancelled or people just jumped the gun with that and assumed it wasn't going to be produced. But yeah, a lot of fans weren't happy with it. But the usual suspects hated it because it was diverse. It had representation. So whenever a series has representation, they always protest it and say it's bad and low quality and not what people wanted, and the fans didn't want it and it wasn't made for them. And that's just their usual thing they say about everything, which comes really repetitive and pointless. And yeah, but this one, it did seem to not really make much of an attempt to embrace what the original film was. Now, I haven't spoken to... I saw the original film once because I knew a friend who really loved it when I was growing up, and I'd always seen artwork from it and thought I should watch that one day. And I did watch it, and I was unimpressed, and I don't know why people loved it. I don't know what it was about it that was special, and I'm not sure what they didn't embrace. My impression was they just had a young cast, mostly female, and they didn't really deal with the older characters. They didn't revisit a lot of the elements of the original movie, which is kind of the point of doing a TV series, follow-up to a movie. So it did seem to be they were chasing more the new audience and focusing more on that than engaging the old audience. Now, the actor from the first film, I've forgotten his name. Damn, I can see him in my head. He did appear, but he apparently wasn't in it a lot, and they just felt it should have been treated better. So I'm not sure if this series deserves any of the criticism that it got, but it did seem to not be particularly embraced by fans, because there are some shows that get attacked by the usual suspects, but they still do well, and then they try and explain their way around, the show doing well and people actually liking it. But this one didn't seem to do that well, so I'm not really sure. But I don't know, I just sort of want to comment on it because there aren't a lot of shows that get cancelled in the first year, sort of like this. Like a lot of these sort of genre shows like Star Trek Discovery, The Mandalorian, that they seem to have sort of a built-in sort of contract where they have to have a few years before the investment in it, they usually wouldn't cancel it in the first year, is what it seems like. This does seem like, I don't know if it's just what's going to be the norm now or if this one was particularly not well received. Apparently it did well with the critics, but it never really got the ratings. But it's really hard to tell because most of the information that I've heard of it came from the usual suspects and people that are against representation, against diversity, and just make things up to suit their narrative a lot of the time. So it's hard to tell. And I didn't care enough to do a lot of research because I know it didn't have great numbers and it has been cancelled. So yeah, I don't know if I'll ever watch it. I guess I'll get around to it one day. I'll have a little Willow marathon, watch the whole thing and see if it compares. But it's not high on my list because I don't like fantasy a lot, particularly that sort of medieval fantasy, because I prefer the future, the current day or the future. I don't really like the past because I just, especially way back where people are basically living in the forest and stuff, it's like I don't want to be in that world, so I can't invest in that world because I don't want to be there. Whereas Star Trek, the real Star Trek from 1966 to 2005, I want to be in that world. I want to be on those ships. I believe to the extent that universe exists, and I want to be a part of it. Whereas the medieval stuff like Lord of the Rings and Game of Thrones, I don't want to be there. So it's hard to invest in those shows. I'm mostly just watching them to see what happens because everyone else is talking about it. You just kind of get sucked into what happens next. But I don't really enjoy it or care about it, and I don't revisit any of them. I've every season of Game of Thrones, but I've never rewatched them. I have all the Lord of the Rings movies. I rewatched them once before I saw The Hobbit, I think. Or maybe before I saw the last film, I watched the first two, but that's it. And I have no interest because I just don't want to be in that world. So yeah, Willow, first season, cancelled, not getting a second season. Probably not getting the merch that was planned, but it's a bit sad. Warwick Davis, that was the name of the actor. It was a bit sad, but maybe if they had catered more to the original fans, because this is the thing I don't understand. New fans don't know the difference. If you really pull on things from the series or a movie when you're doing a sequel, the fans are going to really appreciate it. The new people that you're trying to engage, they don't know the damn difference. They're not going to know if they're being fed stuff that comes right from the original or from the legacy or whatever. It really makes no sense to me to just miss all that and just focus purely on new fans. I think they probably, missed the boat with this, and they could have done a lot better had they really